The Trappist monks here in Spencer have long been known for their preserves and vestments. But really out of basic necessity, a new form of income was needed to keep the monks financially sound in the years ahead. And the product they now produce has gained its own notoriety among beer aficionados, even though it's only been out for a couple of years. Steve Kiltonick now has the story of Spencer Trappist Ale.
On 2,000 acres, amid the rolling hills and fields of Spencer, Massachusetts, sits St. Joseph's Abbey. Because St. Joseph's is a Cistercian or Trappist monastery, the monks here are contemplative and live a simple life of prayer and meditation. A typical day for the 60 monks begins around 3 a.m. when they rise for vigils, prayer, sacred reading, and the Eucharist. Following the rule of St. Benedict, a 6th century monk, the monks here are committed to being self-supportive and to live by the work of their hands. When the Trappists arrived in Spencer during the 1950s, they were primarily dairy farmers. But for the last 60 years, their main source of income has been jams, jellies, and preserves. The Trappists also make liturgical vestments under the banner of the Holy Rood Guild. In 2000, with rapidly rising healthcare costs, an average age of 70, and given the nature of the two existing enterprises, the abbot felt some strategic planning was needed to ensure financial stability for the Trappists. An advisory board comprised of business, professional, and academic people was created. They decided a new revenue stream was needed.
So we began a long search, and it ended up that some of the brothers who had for many years been interested in brewing actually brought that idea forward, and it gained traction.
The Trappists, primarily in 6 Belgian monasteries, have been brewing world-class beer for centuries. But no Trappist order in America had ever ventured into making authentic Trappist beer. It took years of research and community discussion before the idea achieved widespread support in June 2011.
We got an overwhelming majority to go ahead. The biggest majority of a vote on anything, we think, in the history of the community.
But their Trappist brothers in Europe were more skeptical about approving a Trappist brewery outside of Europe. So 2 brothers went to Europe to discuss the idea with the International Trappist Association, or ITA, of which all the Trappists belong to.
They offered to help us in any way they could in terms of technical support, information, brewery design, everything short of financing. That was our own responsibility.
Father Keeley and Brother Jonah packed their bags for Belgium to learn everything about brewing Trappist beer and to be trained in brewing, lab work, and packaging.
I was one of the monks who went over to Belgium to train at Chimay at Scormont Abbey. We were over there for 6 months, and when we returned, we began brewing on a pilot batch system. So we were constantly being under the supervision of a certified brewmaster.
Before the brewery could be built, they had to agree to some Trappist rules. The beer had to be brewed only within the walls of the abbey by or under the supervision of monks. The brewery must be monitored to ensure a quality product. The monastic way of life must be kept. No profits could be made beyond what was only needed to sustain the community and maintain the buildings. All money left over must be donated to charity.
We did this so that we could sustain the life of the monastery in this place for a 50 to 100-year period. So we oversized the brew house so that we could produce what we need to sustain the monastery and work inside our monastery horarium or schedule.
The 36,000 square foot, multi-million-dollar facility is the envy of nearly any microbrewery in the world. But even with a state-of-the-art brewery, the monks were challenged to come up with a new recipe that would fit within the high standards established by the monastic beer-making culture.
We defined the beer verbally in lots and lots of detail about what we wanted it to finally be. And then with the help of this brew engineer who had degrees in brew science and fermentation and also biochemistry, he helped us to take our description and produce the actual ale that we have.
By the summer of 2013, 24 pilot brews were concocted before the final recipe was chosen. The end result, released in October 2013, is Spencer Trappist Ale. Most of the 4 ingredients in the beer comes from the United States. Malted barley from New York and Canada. Willamette and Nugget hops from Washington State. The water is piped from a large aquifer under the Trappist property. The yeast comes from a family of yeasts cultured from other Trappist breweries in the middle of the 20th century. Before the ale could be officially brewed, the Belgian Trappists had to give the okay at a public taste test. Here, it was approved unanimously. Most of the Spencer monks aren't big beer drinkers. They rarely serve alcohol except on solemnity and feast days. The monks first tasted the ale at a Christmas party.
I was handling the tap, and when some of the monks who said, they're definitely not beer drinkers, came back for seconds, I said, we've hit it.
Father Keeley said the distinctive Spencer ale is highly carbonated because of its unique two-step fermentation process. It's re-fermented in the bottle for 3 to 4 weeks.
It has a very crisp, clean flavor when you first sip it, and then maybe the first wave of flavor, there's some fruity accents, depending on one's taste buds. There's a certain apricot accent, and maybe on the fruit side also a little mandarin orange. Then it has a very dry finish with a light hop bitterness. It's the kind of beer that you drink to make an ordinary day special or a special occasion more memorable. It's not going to be your Bud Light. It's designed to be used in a monastic refectory. Goes great with whole grain breads, simple soups, nice salads. It's not the kind of beer when you mow the lawn and you're hot and sweaty or finish the basketball game and you want to belt one down. This isn't the right beer for that.
Father Keeley said they brew usually once or twice a week to keep the yeast culture in a healthy state. Bottling is done only once a week. The monks usually start about 8 a.m.
We typically have at least 4 monks on the line, and we have some helpers from our jelly factory also. So a total of 6 people on the line, minimally, and then a supervisor who's our brewmaster.
On this day, the monks are bottling and packaging the 750 milliliter bottles of Trappist Imperial Stout. A variety of pilot recipes like this are produced on a regular basis. A Christmas ale has also been brewed in time for the holiday season. All the packaging bears the distinctive Spencer logo, the bell tower. The bottling process begins with the bottles coming out of the warehouse on pallets and being loaded onto the assembly line. The ale gets into the filler directly from the fermenter in the room next door. A cork along with a wire cage or with the ale a distinctive cap is then put on before heading to Brother Adam and the labeling machine.
We're putting labels on the bottles. And then we try and pay attention to bottles that are coming through to make sure there's nothing the matter with the bottle itself. Sometimes a cork could be missing or a cage. And then we just make sure that the labels go on well.
Brother Adam has been working in the brewery since it opened.
Here we feel like we're really building a future and building up a business because the business is small and we want to grow it. So there's a lot of research and development that goes into it. It's been kind of exciting, actually.
After labeling, the bottles are transferred into cartons, which are pre-assembled. The cartons are sealed and placed on a pallet, which is shrink-wrapped. The pallet goes to the re-fermentation room for 3 to 5 weeks for the second fermentation to be completed. After it passes a taste test, it's off to stores and restaurants, mainly in Massachusetts and New England. Brother Jonah is what you would call the utility man of the brewery. On this day, he's operating the filler. But he's done some forklifting, lab work, and is a taster as well. Brother Jonah helped create and brew the Imperial Stout, which he's a big fan of.
I love the excitement of working in the packaging hall. There's always things moving, and I'm always on the go, and you have to monitor and keep close eye on several facets of the line. So you have to have a big view of the whole thing while you're also still focusing on the details.
Brother Jonah says all the brothers have to work well together for the brewery to survive long term.
There's no way that we'll succeed if we don't have that team spirit, and we do. We really get along well, and we have a wonderful array of personalities that keeps things very interesting.
The brothers are fully aware that on the brewery hinges the future of the community and the monastery. Here at the 36,000 square foot brewery, the goal of the Trappist is to produce 4,000 barrels of ale a year. It's hoped that that will be increased to 10,000 barrels over the next 5 years. The maximum capacity here is 40,000 barrels a year. Father Keeley says sales of the Spencer Ale so far are exceeding expectations.
It's been received very well. I think it's going to turn into a classic. I think it's just going to take a while for its legs to get fully stretched, so to speak.
What he doesn't want is for the brewery to get too big too quickly. For now, the Spencer Trappists are content not to be big time.
As we say, we want to be a monastery with a brewery and not the other way around.
Brother Jonah agrees.
I think it is nice to be able to stay somewhat small, where most of your workforce can be those who are living the monastic life, like myself, the monk.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
And Steve says that the monks here have paired up with their Trappistine sisters in Wrentham this holiday season. The monks contributed a 6-pack of ale and the sisters their own chocolate, which they are well known for. And this ale chocolate combo pack would make a great gift for just about any adult on your list this Christmas. If you would like more information, you can find a link on our website at iobserve.org.